Many people claim to communicate with ghosts. Only a few say they've taken it to the next level. Today, we're discussing stories of people who've gotten lucky in a spectral sense. Yes, we're talking spectrophilia, aka ghost sex. Welcome to Shadowland, everybody.
Welcome.
This is a podcast that shines a spotlight on stories of the supernatural, mysterious, eerie, and unexplained. Stuff like remote viewing,
Energy vortexes,
urban legends,
auras,
past lives,
black holes,
visions,
holographic universe theory,
healings,
trolls,
time travel,
sprites,
all of that stuff.
all that kind of stuff.
So I'm Christina Calorie,
And I'm Seth Jablon.
and today we're talking about ghost sex,
That's right. Would you call it spectrophilia?
spectrophilia.
Yeah. It's a very, very interesting topic. I can't wait to get into it. But first, do you want to do some news? I got some more news.
Yeah, let's hear your
last
news.
time.
I'm going to have news for next time, but you do news.
Okay.
Do your news.
So, I mean, this isn't like breaking news. Actually, like, I guess part of it's breaking news. It's kind of like slightly recent news, but then there's another layer to it. So basically I'm sure many of our listeners remember that the Navy released some videos, or some videos got out from the Navy, and they had like acknowledged that there was this, they had that UFOs were a thing, and now they've sort of doubled down and said that they've actually acknowledged that these 3 videos that are going around of these Navy people watching these UFOs go around on I guess it's some sort of radar. I'm not sure if it's radar, but something like that. And they're sort of talking about them. They've confirmed that they are real, and that they don't know what the phenomenon is. So they're acknowledging that UFOs exist and that they don't know what they are.
Yeah, I heard that too. And didn't they rename it? It's like instead of unidentified flying object, it's now unidentified aerial phenomena, which I guess is more accurate, but...
Yeah. Unidentified aerial phenomena. Oh, right. UAPs. Right. I see that here. Yeah. I mean, I just think that's really interesting because, like, when you think about UFOs, or UAPs now, I guess we call them, but when you think about them, like, for the sort of lay person or the person in the street, it's like, oh, well, it's unidentifiable to you because you can't recognize what an aircraft looks like in the sky, or there's secret, government or military crafts up there that you just wouldn't recognize, that they're not telling us about. But if the Navy doesn't know what it is, then we don't know what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And they're not going to let like spy planes and stuff get into airspace, hopefully. You know what I mean? So, and they clearly don't think it's like, some other country or something like that, because it would obviously be at a much higher alert. So it's clear that these are something they can't explain, but they don't necessarily think is some sort of, specific threat from another country, right? Which means, like, if they don't know, then who does know? And if nobody knows, then what the fuck are they? Right?
And I'm sure you got the usual explanations trotted out, some kind of like atmospheric light thing happening, or,
Yeah, but I mean, like, you can see in the videos too that, like, these things move with a certain type of intelligence, right? Like, they move at incredible speeds, and then they stop, and then they turn right, and then they turn left, and they act with a purpose. They act with an intelligence. So yeah, I mean, like an orb that sort of slowly or quickly floats across the room or across the sky. Okay, sure, that might be, but something that's turning at 90-degree angles. Very few things turn at 90-degree angles in nature. So it's hard to imagine it as a purely natural phenomenon.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Like, I wonder what's going to be released next.
I know. I feel like, like my sort of conspiracy theory brain is like definitely like, that they've been like letting out more and more stuff over the years. They won't come out straight up all at once and say anything, but they'll kind of like release some videos, and then after a few months are like, oh yeah, that's happened. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the Mexican government, released a bunch of its UFOs. The UK did as well. So it's like all this stuff's been slowly coming out, and like more and more, every time they do polls, like more and more people in America, for instance, believe in UFOs and extraterrestrial life. And so, who knows, maybe in, a certain amount of time, we might even learn more, there might be more files released. There might be more acknowledgement from, the government and the scientific community, that there is something going on. So
Yeah, let's hope.
that's yeah. But anyways, okay. So, but today we're not talking about UFOs. We are talking about ghost sex.
Ghost sex, that's right. Or
That's right.
ghost, I mean,
Or
it doesn't
ghost
have.
romance?
It doesn't have. Right. Yeah. It doesn't have to be that shallow.
That's right. That's
Ghost,
right.
ghost love affairs.
That's right.
But people who have, basically taken a relationship with a ghost into new territory.
That's right. Into an intimate territory.
Intimate territory. Yeah.
So, I think I know which one you're doing. Like, maybe I should go first because I feel like yours is going to be tough to follow.
Okay.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's going to be pretty epic. So,
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's hard. It's a very specific ghost one, but mine's more just like straight up ghost sex, and there's some ghost romance in here too.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the story of Amethyst Realm. Have you heard of her?
I have,
You
but I
have.
don't know too much.
Okay.
So
So
enlighten me.
it's sort of a two-part story. Like, she came out several years ago with sort of one story, and then later came out with more to the story. So basically, for those who don't know, Amethyst Realm is, I guess she's probably about 30, little early 30s at this point. Year-old woman who is from the UK, and she says she's had sex with over 20 ghosts, and including being part of the Mile High Club. I love that detail. Yeah, so the whole thing started, according to her, when she was 18 and she moved in with her husband, may have been her fiance at the time. But either way, I mean, obviously she's pretty young, but moved in with him, and I guess he was away a lot. And so she was just kind of like hanging out in this house. And then she started feeling these presences, right? Like something was making itself known to her, or, sort of around the house approaching her. So eventually she ends up having sex with it. Right. So, the way she describes it, very interesting, just like that, the way that it would sort of come on to her. But she has, according to her, full blown sex with this. And it leads.
Did she talk about like the seduction? Was it just sort of like
only
a
little
sudden
bit.
thing? It didn't,
I mean, I listened to a couple.
flirt with her at all, or
Yeah, I mean, she's really sort of blithe about the whole thing when she talks about it. She's very matter of fact, and it's kind of interesting and unsettling at the same time. So like I watched a couple of interviews with her. She was on some like UK morning shows or something, or talk shows or something like that. But I think she talks about it like sort of like coming on to her like in an energetic way, that it was like a feeling and a sensation. But she's pretty clear that like it's like actual intercourse, right? That she has orgasms, that it's like straight up sex, right? And she says they would have sex all over the house, right? And she said eventually more spirits came, which I think is, not hard to believe, in the sense that, if one ghost finds someone to have sex, like they might tell their buddies,
yeah, there's probably not that many people out there.
Right, exactly. But I think she implies that these are different ghosts of different genders. So I don't think she's like exclusively with male gendered, and I'm not even sure if like she would even see these ghosts as gendered. But basically, she has this affair, which eventually, I think for about 3 years, and eventually it comes to an end when her husband comes home one day and says he sees through the window this shadowy figure on top of her, right? And so he goes
So her
inside.
husband actually verified this.
Right, yeah. So she got caught by her husband having sex with a ghost.
Can I
Yeah, go ahead.
can I make a really bad pun?
Yes, please.
She ghosted him.
She ghosted him. Oh.
I'm sorry.
You had to. So yeah. So basically, I mean, that would be a lot, and I think they get divorced. So then eventually she meets another ghost while on a trip to Australia. So she says she met this new ghost while she was walking in the bush. And again, it approached her. She described it as this like emotional, physical presence. And she said she just sort of fell in love with it, right? And then when she had to leave,
Like right there, like
right there, I think
instantaneously?
within the interactions with it, I don't know exactly how long. You know, a lot of the recounts are not exactly detailed about like what exactly transpired. But she said she felt sad to leave it, right? That most of her ghost sex encounters had been, relegated to a specific place, So I guess she didn't really have sex outside of the house with those ghosts, but so she, felt sad to leave it, right? Obviously she lives in the UK and she's, in Australia. But later on the plane, she's flying back to the UK and she says the ghost surprises her, right, in her seat and starts coming on to her. And so she's like, well, I can't have sex with the ghost right here in the cabin. So obviously she goes into the bathroom, or loo, as she puts it, and has sex, and then claims to have now been a member of the Mile High Club. Maybe the first ghost spectrophilia Mile High Club. I don't know. I wasn't able to find another, but so now, so basically the ghost comes home with her, and now they're together. So the way she described it is, it started as an energy, then became physical. There was a pressure on my thighs and breath on my neck. I just always felt safe. I had sex with the ghost. You can feel it. It's difficult to explain. I don't know. She explained it pretty well, I think.
Did she have any like identifying characteristics or names or anything attached to these ghost lovers?
So she describes this spirit as an ancient spirit that's been on this planet for a long time. So I don't think she sees this as like necessarily a person or the soul of a person. But she did decide to name it Ray. So so that's his name. Obviously that's a sort of male name, and I think she sees him as male.
That wasn't what I was expecting.
No, me neither. When I came across that, I was like, wow. Especially like considering her name. Like Amethyst Realm. I mean, that's a pretty exotic name, pretty interesting one. I don't know if that, that was her, sort of given name, or if she changed her name later, but still, Ray. So she also said she didn't hear his voice until they were on a recent trip to England's Wookie Hole Caves, where she said he asked her to marry him. So she said, there was no going down on one knee. He doesn't have knees. But for the first time, I heard him speak. I could actually hear his voice, and it was beautiful, deep, sexy, and real. And then she went on to tell the host that she was talking to that she was now trying to have a phantom pregnancy, and that she was looking into it on the internet about the viability of having a phantom pregnancy. And they pressed her on that, and like I wasn't able to really discern whether that meant having a phantom baby or whatever that meant, but she seemed pretty confident that something was possible there.
Okay, so she didn't really elaborate on whether this would be like a ghost baby.
She didn't seem to really quite know yet.
Okay.
She was in the exploratory phase. Again, she's very like kind of like blithe and almost like, like subdued about the whole thing. She's like, sort of offhand, like, well, we'll see, So all this was from articles and interviews from 2017 and 2018. I couldn't find out anything whether they've actually gotten married or not, or where she is now. So if anyone knows, I'd love to hear it. We'll definitely talk about it. Put in the news section, updates section. I mean, you can look up these interviews with her. They're definitely fun to watch. And then, some fun facts. Obviously, Realm isn't the first person to have sex with a ghost, right? We've got a name for it, spectrophilia. There's some celebrities that have had, who say they've had sex with ghosts, including Bobby Brown and Kesha.
Bobby Brown?
Yes. And I don't know the whole story there. Maybe we'll do that in our celebrity episode.
I really need to hear the whole
I know.
story.
I feel like we need to dig into that one a little bit more. I read the Kesha one, but it really wasn't an account. She just said it happened and was like, yeah, whatever. But so yeah, spectrophilia. Just to get into that a little bit more, it's defined as the sexual attraction to ghosts or sexual arousal from images in mirrors, which I thought that was really interesting that that's part of the definition, as well as the alleged phenomena of sexual encounters between ghosts and humans, so that people can sort of just become aroused by the stories of them. And I read some stuff about like some doctors' explanations that they liken some of possibly this phenomena is connected to sleep paralysis or something like that, or some type of hallucination in between sleep and and waking. That people can have these very erotic experiences during that time. She discounted it, saying that she had sex in the kitchen with these ghosts. So
like fully awake, not like as she's dozing off or anything.
Right.
So it wasn't like an erotic dream.
Exactly. And yeah, last fun fact, there's a Les Claypool Sean Lennon song named after, I think it's actually about her. So fun one to look up. And cool. That's it. That is the story of Amethyst Realm.
Is fascinating.
Yeah.
But honestly, like real love is hard to find in this world. So maybe
that's true, man.
It makes sense to kind of be open.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, if it's with a ghost, I don't know. Like, I imagine if like ghosts, let's posit ghosts are real, right? Like,
okay.
Why couldn't you have some type of astral or sort of, psychological sex? I mean, we've all had, I'm sure, like moments of that type of like psychic sex where you connect, mentally with somebody sexually, right? Like that's usually like, the most intense or intimate kinds,
Mm-hmm.
Some people have out of body experiences. So it's not out of the like,
which is another thing we should talk about. But
yes, we will definitely do that. So yeah, I think she loses me a little bit at the marriage proposal.
Right. Well, yeah, and for sure at the ghost baby. But.
Yes, definitely lost at the ghost baby. But yeah, the marriage proposal is like, okay, it's like to your point the other day. It's like,
okay, here's an idea though.
Okay.
And I have no idea if this is the thing or not. But what if there's something about a cave? We'd have to do a little research. But is there something about caves or being underground or something like that?
That's where like ghosts like
would mediums say that it's easier? Well, maybe it's easier to make contact. I'm just throwing that out there.
Interesting. Okay, well, maybe that's an episode for us to dig into.
Okay. Cool. Well, that was definitely interesting.
Yeah. So you ready to do your story? Because I'm dying to hear it.
Yeah. Well, mine is kind of similar. My person is more like a one ghost woman.
Okay. Yes.
So this is the story of Amanda Teague, who married the ghost of a 300-year-old pirate.
Oh my God, I love it.
Okay. So, is this the one you thought it was going to be?
Yes, it is. That's the most extra of like all ghosts. Like it's like Civil War soldier, pirate, like maybe like Egyptian pharaoh. Those are like the most extra ghosts that you can have relationship. No one's having like, I don't know, like what Amethyst Realm's, ghost like occupation
a ghostly accountant or
like
something,
not like plumbers, that's like, I love that it's a pirate. Okay, sorry, go on.
Okay, so in 2015, a 45-year-old Irish woman and mother of 4 named Amanda Large was meditating, and some reports say that she was in bed, which kind of makes it sexier. And this is at her home in Ireland when she sensed a presence nearby. And she has some kind of new age spiritual beliefs. I think she's called herself a pagan. So, she's open to all of this stuff. Right. But anyway, in an interview with the Washington Post, she also said that she started exploring spirituality after the death of a 3-month-old son. So, yeah, which is sad. Like many of us, like, this grief experience prompted her to kind of search for answers more. Um, but anyway, she's at her home. She senses this presence, and she basically tells it to leave because she doesn't want to be interrupted. But then it comes back a second time. Same thing happens, and then a third time. And during the third time, she decides to try and communicate with it and starts talking to it. And after a while, this goes on for like, I think a period of like a few months. She learns over time that this is the ghost of a Haitian pirate, and his name is Jack Teague. And he was hanged for stealing like 300 years ago in 1753. And apparently, she's claimed that he's the inspiration for Johnny Depp's Captain Jack Sparrow character in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Okay, also, an aside here, she apparently is a huge fan of the franchise and was working as a Captain Jack Sparrow impersonator at this time. And she thinks that's the reason that the spirit was drawn toward her.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Okay. But it's up for debate whether this Jack Teague guy ever really existed. Nobody's really found any evidence for him, and even the movie's screenwriters denied using him for inspiration. Also, Teague is like a pretty Irish name. It's not really a Haitian one. But Amanda seemed pretty convinced, firmly believes it. So, although she couldn't see him, she said that he described himself as having dark skin, jet black hair, early 50s, the age at which he died, even though he's actually over 300 years old. And he starts coming around on the regular. So, apparently they'd hang out while she was watching TV or going for a drive, and she's communicating with him all the time and finds herself falling in love with him. And I don't know. It's kind of like the bad boy thing. I'm not really
Yeah,
I'm not
I
really
can see
sure.
it.
Right. Why she couldn't just date a drummer like the rest of us, but okay. Takes it up a notch. So one day he apparently said to her, "We can actually be together, But she wasn't down for ghost hookups, and she lets him know that from the get-go. She said, "I told him I wasn't really cool with having casual sex with a spirit, and I wanted us to make a proper commitment to each other.
I love it.
Growing up in Ireland in my era, you were taught that if a man bedded you, he should wed you. I knew from my research that spiritual marriage was a thing, so it was more me that wanted to get married than him. He would have been happy, like most men, with just sex."
Wait, so she's holding out for marriage to have sex
Right.
with it. Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
She's like, but she actually didn't. So
Oh,
he
okay.
proposed, and then after they got engaged, then they did it. So, just like in your story, she said that their chemistry was incredible. She said that Jack was the best sex she's ever had. I mean, he's had 300 years to practice.
That's
but,
true. That's true.
But she said that they would have sex like 2 or 3 times a week, and she said a lot of people don't understand how you can have sex with a ghost, but we were so connected that I could feel his every movement, even if I couldn't see him. He could touch me intimately and was a great lover. So,
Okay.
so this interspectral couple had a courtship. They did things that a lot of normal couples do. They argued, they got jealous, they even went away to Dublin on romantic weekend getaways. She said she would buy him a glass of rum when they went out on dates, so he stayed, pretty much in character. And then,
Wait, so they're at the restaurant. He's like, "Yar, I'll have some rum."
Yar, I'll have some rum, matey. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, she didn't say anything about a parrot though, so I don't think it was like that far. But on July 23rd of 2016, they were married on a small boat in the Atlantic Ocean, and only 12 people were allowed on the boat, so she stuck to close friends and family, although her parents didn't attend, I guess. They didn't really approve. if
Go
you can
figure.
imagine.
Come
Yeah.
on, though. Like, look, if one of your friends is marrying a pirate ghost, or someone in your family is marrying a pirate ghost, don't you want to go?
Yeah. So if I marry a pirate ghost, would you go?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good to know. So anyway, they had the service in international waters because apparently it's not legal to marry a dead or possibly fictitious person in Ireland. There's an official term though, because in some cultures it's a practice for various reasons, and I think like some of that is like financial or whatever,
Oh, right,
or
Like
like emotional.
inheritances and
Someone's
stuff.
passed away and you
Right.
were engaged, and so you kind of make it official. But and I don't know how you pronounce this, but I'm gonna take a stab. Necrogamy,
Huh.
necrogamy. Anyway, that's when you marry a ghost. So the ceremony was officiated by someone she described as a Celtic shaman, and his name was Patrick Eamon Carberry. And Jack had to say I do through a medium since he couldn't really talk. And then there was a Jolly Roger flag on board to symbolize Jack. Um, and then also, kind of strangely, there was a painting of Johnny Depp. And I can post a picture of this. But they basically kind of had it positioned by the wedding cake area. But it's Johnny Depp and his Jack Sparrow character get up.
I'm so jealous I wasn't there.
Me too. Okay. So, not really sure how legally binding this ceremony actually was, but it was emotionally binding and spiritually binding. She did change her last name, so she became Amanda Teague. And they apparently also took part in a Wiccan ceremony called hand fasting. So they were extra married.
Oh yeah, right. I think that Amethyst Realm was also. They were also going to do like a hand fast. I don't know if that's like a.
Oh, okay.
If that's
Maybe
more
this is
like.
kind of like a workaround,
Yeah,
like if you
yeah,
want to, yeah.
yeah. Maybe that's just
So
what you do with ghosts, or maybe that's just a
maybe,
thing there. I don't know.
maybe it's a thing. Yeah, I don't know. I have to look that up. Okay. So after the wedding, they're in the honeymoon phase, and she was really happy. She said, after the wedding, we were like any other newlyweds. I moved to the coast as Jack likes to be near the sea, and we'd go on romantic strolls. We'd go on romantic strolls along the beach. On Valentine's Day, we went for a curry. The staff did look a bit confused when I asked for a table for two, but I didn't care.
Yeah, you go,
So,
girl, man. Do
yeah,
it.
yeah. Yep, you do you. So, the honeymoon was short lived though. So, 2 months after the high seas ceremony, Amanda started to have some pretty strange health problems, and they got serious. She got cirrhosis of the liver, and this is a little gross, but she said that every time they had sex, she started getting abscesses. I'm not going to go into further detail, but you can look it up online. And apparently, this went on for a while until she finally kind of put it together with having this ghost sex with her husband and ending up having problems with this stuff. But eventually, it got so serious that she got sepsis and had to get
Whoa,
emergency
what?
surgery. Yeah. So she had to go to the hospital, had to get surgery, and starts thinking something's up. So she went to a medium who told her that Jack was an evil spirit who was just like using her to stay in this realm instead of passing on and kind of stealing her energy. So she knew at this point she had to end it. When she tried to break it off, though, Jack became enraged. And she said that he threatened her life. She thinks he killed her dog. Her dog died. She said, it was terrifying seeing a completely different side to the lovely spirit I had seen before. But I knew in my heart that if I didn't get rid of him, my health was getting so bad that I was probably going to die anyway. So she ended up having to call in some pagan priests to perform exorcisms. And I think they did like two to finally get rid of Jack's spirit. And then after this divorce, her health improved dramatically, she said. But she has sworn off pirate ghosts for good.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
after all that.
right. So she said, I would really say to people who are thinking about getting into this, be really, really, really careful. And if somebody is not telling you about the dangerous side of it, run a mile. And that is the story of Amanda Teague.
Wow. Wow, that is epic. That took a really dark turn there at the end. I didn't
It
know any of
did,
that
yeah.
stuff.
It
Yeah.
got pretty creepy and disturbing.
But sepsis, I mean, that's
Yeah.
like very serious. And
It's
also, like,
extremely serious. Yeah,
how
people
did that
die of
happen?
that a
So, I
lot.
mean, sorry, what are you saying?
I was just gonna say, yeah, it kills people a lot. It's a
Yeah, but also, like, okay, so if you take the side of, like, okay, she's, hallucinating or making this up or somehow, in some sort of dream state with all this, like, how did that happen? Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, not that, like, she couldn't have done something that caused that, but that seems very extreme. Like, something was affecting her, right? Like, I mean, I think what's interesting about these stories is, like, how visceral these people that talk about them seem to be and how sort of confident in them they are, like that the sex, there's like obviously some interaction there, the sensation of sex, the sexual feelings, and like, but then to her to have like a bodily reaction to this phenomena also is like really bizarre, right?
It really is, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there would be different schools of thought on that. I mean, I think some people would just say the mind-body connection is incredibly powerful.
Right.
And,
Yeah. Right. Right.
if you're
Right.
kind of,
Yeah. Right.
your immune system reacts to your stress levels and all of that. So she could have, like, kind of just, made herself vulnerable in that way. If it was,
That's
like,
true. Yep.
stressing her out or, she didn't feel quite right about it underneath. But I
Right.
think,
Right.
other people would kind of say she's dabbling with, sort of a dark side of things and could have opened herself up to some kind of negative spiritual energy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that certainly wouldn't be the first story of, someone feeling like they were tricked by some sort of spirit trying to drain off their energy by posing as something else, right? Like I feel like that's a fairly common, one when it's a darker sort of, when it takes a darker turn,
Right.
there's, accounts of mediums or children, seeing multiple ghosts sort of warring in a household,
Right.
over some posing as children or things like that aren't,
Right. They pose as, like, innocent.
Right. And then, I feel like those often happen with the sort of doll hauntings and all that, right? That they start out as this sort of more innocent thing, that turns dark, especially when there's an attempt to sort of break off the relationship or something like that.
Which makes it extra creepy. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I looked at spectrophilia. I don't remember. Maybe I'll look it up here really quick. It's part of paraphilia or something like that, which has to do with the sort of attraction to sort of objects and things. It's like as a type of fetish, right? Let me just
Like the
see
people
real
that fall
quick.
in love with, like, the Brooklyn Bridge or something like that.
Right, exactly. But then this other sort of side of it that it turned into this thing where she was like trying to break it off, and then it had this sort of grip on her is also really interesting. And sort of before it went there, it reminded me of
Although, you know what? You think
what?
you... Okay, I just have to say this, and I'm not, like, attacking her or anything. But, the guy was a pirate, if he existed.
Right.
And, raping,
Pirates aren't.
pillaging. They weren't,
He
like,
definitely had
upstanding
some
citizens. They
STDs.
weren't, like... Well, there's that, too, the STDs.
But he's a
but
bad
also...
guy. He's a bad guy, is what
Right.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, it's the
they
bad boy
weren't...
thing.
Right. Or, like, like dating, wanting to, like these serial killers or something. They get all these, letters in prison.
Right, exactly. And I mean, that's got to, like, also, like you said, like, just psychologically, the idea that of yourself, like, dating a ghost pirate has to be, like, disturbing to your subconscious on some level, right? Whether
Right.
it's really happening or not, So let me see. I found it. Paraphilia is known as a sexual perversion or deviation, that's sort of troubling language, but
It's pretty vague.
yeah, is the experience of intense sexual arousal to atypical objects, situations, fantasies, behaviors, or individuals. So it's a type of
It's under that umbrella.
sexual fetishism. Yeah. But yeah, like, I don't know, it kind of almost sounds like it really wasn't that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas maybe the first, like, amethyst realm, I forgot one little detail was when, she felt like these things was coming onto her, she actually initiated it. She actually she said she laid down in bed in lingerie for hours waiting for it to come to her. So that's a much different story, right? She clearly has this sort of like, she said she's, slept with 20 ghosts or whatever. And so she has this attraction to the idea of it, whereas it almost sounded like she was like kind of reluctant, right? With this guy. Like she was like, I don't necessarily want to go all the way with the pirate ghost yet. So you have to commit. It's really a fascinating angle to her whole story, right?
Right. And she even said in an interview that she, and I don't know if she was talking about Amethyst or who she was referencing, but she was saying how she kind of felt bad for some of these like younger women that they didn't realize they could ask for a commitment from these spirits. They didn't just have to have sex with them.
Right.
But she's also written a couple books. One is called A New Attitude. It's on Amazon. And that one is just like about her experience.
That was post her breaking it off and now
I'm
moving on with her life.
Yeah, I'm assuming. And then the other one is called A Life You Will Remember. And basically that one, it seems, pretty closely, tied to her life, her story. But it's about a woman who, hold on, let me read it. It's about a woman who, I think, discovers the character of Jack Sparrow in a city square, and they fall in love, something like that.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of that. I forget what it's called. And I don't remember exactly where I heard about it. It was like, I think it was maybe on like Reply All or something like that. But it was, maybe I'll even try and do an episode on that. Like, but these people who sort of develop these voices in their heads or that speak through them that eventually sort of take on a life of their own and almost become in relation to that person like another person. And it's not a personality disorder. It's not a it's not like a schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder or anything like that. It's literally this thing that sort of, it's a psychological thing that sort of takes people over who and I think there's like a whole like internet community based around it. But just this idea of like creating something so real in your mind that it exists for you. You know what I mean? Like, I imagine that's what, real good actor actually does. They actually create this thing that's real to them. And so it seems real to you as well when, you watch them. So yeah, but that was a very, very trippy story with lots of twists and turns. I would love to hear, like, I actually want to, like, maybe we should like do some follow-up episodes, I would love to know,
where are they now?
Where are they now? Like, what's her perspective now? Like, how does she feel about this?
I have to correct something too.
Yeah,
it looks like the other book, the A Life You Will Remember book, it looks like that's also an autobiography, but it's in the fantasy section. So I don't know. Go figure.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. All right. Well, that was great. I really enjoyed that episode. I mean, I knew it was going to be fun.
Super fun.
Yeah. But
so if any listeners have any ghost sex stories,
definitely want to hear.
Or ghost romance.
Yes. Or romance.
Ghost dating.
Friendships.
Yeah. Ghost friendships. Yeah.
Those work
Platonic.
Too.
Yeah.
I feel like there's lots of like kid ghost friendships, right?
Yeah.
Like that could be a whole thing, but
it really could. But that would really creep me out, I think. But we should do it.
We should definitely do it. We should do like the flip sides of them, like, right? The ones that are like turn out to be these innocent, or experiences, and the ones that turn out to have a dark side to them as well. Right? I feel like there's a lot of them.
Yeah, you could do ones that like turn out to have, sort of like a creepy underbelly, but you could also do ones that are positive.
No,
like
totally.
Positive ghost stories.
Yeah, there's one I'm thinking of where there was like this almost like household of ghosts that were like warring to protect this family. Like there was these ghosts that were like protecting the family from this other ghost that was a bad ghost, an evil ghost that. So, yeah, you could do the whole gamut. Cool. All right. Well, that was episode 8. This is our second one of Spooktober, right?
Yeah. So we've got 2 more to go.
That's right.
In October.
Yep. Cool. And yeah, like, did you give the email address when? Well, maybe we'll just give it again. The Shadowland podcast at Gmail. If you have any stories, definitely.
Any
or just
stories
want to
whatsoever.
say hey.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Or if you've got ideas for what you want to hear next.
Yep. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, we'd love that. I'd love that. Some suggestions, because I feel like I'm always so sort of spoiled for choice on all of these, where I'm like narrowing it down. I feel like we have to like find these like super specific topics to, just to narrow down the stories to do. So yeah, definitely. Maybe we'll post some stuff on the Instagram. Ask people, maybe what they would like to hear next.
Good
Cool.
idea.
All right. Well, I feel pretty good. You feel good?
I feel good. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, I guess until next time.
All right.
See you later.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Shadowland Podcast is produced by Seth Jablon and Christina Callaghan. Edited by Tim Kelly. Theme music by Tim Lincoln.
Thanks, Tim.